Can I just tell you guys something? Outside the window is Lady Gaga trying to eavesdrop on our podcast.
If you not Senate confirmed Elon Musk, sit your whole ass down.
If the president can break multiple laws, then what is a law?
Although this harm is coming for everybody, it is anti-blackness on steroids.
Of the 74 lawsuits that have been currently filed, 33 of them are related to DOGE directly.
The fact that Angela didn't know about this. So many people don't know about this. This was above the fold, A1 New York Times.
I get irritated when it's said that I don't read or that people aren't reading and I'm included as people. Hey, Cedric, that's Rihanna's man, y'all.
That's so disrespectful.
It is infuriating and I think very frustrating for us, the American people, to see this exercised right in front of us and to not understand where the accountability is.
Everyone has a role to play. If you're a prayer warrior, do that. If you're a nurturer, do that. If you're a community and a movement builder, do that.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media.
Welcome.
Welcome home, y'all. This is episode 67 of Native Land Pod. I am your co-host, Angela Rye. My co-hosts, Tiffany Cross and Andrew Gillum, are with us today, and we have so much to talk about. I got to tell you guys, one of these things that's really been on my mind all morning, y'all know I was yelling about it on the pre-production call, is Elon Musk having 5 on it, saying that he's considering a $5,000 tax credit, which seems like it's another STEMI check to folks who may be not as familiar with what's really going on and reading that fine print. So that's one of the things I want to talk about. Tiff and Andrew, what do you guys got?
Well, I know a lot of you guys send us in questions, and so I want to make sure that we get to your questions. There was one particular question about participating in local elections, which I think is extra important right now. So throughout the show, we'll be taking your viewer questions, but there's one particular on local elections that I'll dive into.
And you know, ladies, the American people have been watching, again, on a swivel, all these court cases, all these filings. We all want to know, what do they mean? And so the question of, do these court cases matter at all? And are they having any impact on curbing this administration? I want to get into that.
I love it. Well, let's get into it. Welcome home, y'all.
Can I just tell you guys something?
Yeah.
Outside the window is Lady Gaga trying to eavesdrop on our podcast.
I think you should go say hello and take the camera with you.
Intel before
That's
the
just my
podcast
opinion.
drops. She keep looking in the window over here. I'm like, ugh.
I need somebody to turn Tiff's mic up so I can hear more about
I was
Lady
whispering
I think
Gaga.
she
on
was
purpose.
whispering.
Oh, she was whispering on purpose.
I didn't want her listening. She's been
Well,
trying
we're
to
going to
listen
make sure we
this whole
keep
time.
that in the show just for you, Lady Gaga. Welcome home. So on
Definitely
this,
keep it.
speaking of things that matter, we were talking about, do court cases matter? One of the things that we talked about is it seems like a court case matter. There may have been some justice just a couple days ago with the acquittal of A$AP Rocky. But with everybody else in the country and the cases that are being brought against this administration, it doesn't feel like they're mattering, especially when you have a president who says things like this and signs executive orders to support this. Can we roll that clip?
Lastly, we have another executive order that President Trump signed relating to independent agencies. This executive order would establish important oversight functions in the Office of Management and Budget and its subsidiary office, OIRA, supervising independent agencies and many of their actions, and also reestablishes the longstanding norm that only the President or the Attorney General can speak for the United States when stating an opinion as to what the law is.
Thank you very much, Will. That was the primary purpose of this conference.
Oh, my God.
So here's why this matters. Of course, we've talked about already on this podcast. I did a solo pod on whether or not this moment is defined as a constitutional crisis. When you have 3 co-equal branches of government and somebody just completely ignoring one of those branches of government, just like we're ignoring Andrew's phone ringing.
He's so rude.
I don't know who would do
He's
such
so
a thing.
rude.
I don't know
Yeah.
who would do such a thing. It's
Anyway,
unbelievable.
Angela, please
I
proceed.
think that what we have to
Unbelievable.
acknowledge is that when a court issues an opinion saying there's a temporary restraining order on your ability to freeze these funds because you're operating outside of what is in your power, and then the administration, vis-a-vis your new president, South African Elon Musk, coming around to say, Actually, only the president can decide whether or not these court orders will be enforceable at all. And then Donald Trump coming behind him and saying on Twitter a quote that they've associated with Napoleon about when a man is working to save his country, he breaks no laws. All of these things combined with the cases, there are now well over 50 saying that the
74.
Thank you, Andrew. 74 cases. The executive branch is engaging in a significant unconstitutional overreach of their powers. And you have them signing the executive order saying, hell with every act Congress has ever passed, every bill that's been signed into law by every president. This is what we doing. We gonna tell you, we're the only ones that tell you what the law is, even if I broke them 88 times.
So what is honestly, I mean this as a sincere question because I don't know the answer. What is the longstanding practice? You see, it was his comments were preempted by the gentleman prior to him saying, reestablishing the long-held practice that when it comes to stating what the law of the country is, that responsibility falls exclusively to the Attorney General of the United States and the President of the United States. I'm unfamiliar with the long-held practice. Tiff or Angela, do either of you all? I mean, they make up stuff all the time. I just want to determine if this is one of them.
They're making it up. Like we don't even have to litigate this. They are making it up. It runs afoul of what is printed on paper in the United States Constitution. Full stop. There are 3 co-equal branches of government. The legislative branch are the ones responsible for passing the laws. The president signs those into law. He's responsible for implementing and executing those laws passed by Congress, the House and the Senate. He's responsible for executing the laws, as is the rest of the executive branch. And the judicial branch is responsible for interpreting the law. They don't get to decide what the law is. They don't get to declare what the law is unless they are supporting what has been passed by Congress.
I have to say, guys, I think this whole, and I've said this before, and I think we have to have a serious consideration that these social norms and mores, these political norms are core democratic institutions that have existed for hundreds of years in this very young democracy. Some people will argue it's an old democracy. It is not.
Not at all.
At all. I think we have to give serious consideration to its pixie dust. It doesn't exist. And I think that power is being tested right now. I think there is a false blanket of security that people sleep under at night, thinking, there's only so much Donald Trump is going to do. And I think that speaks to the heart of your point, Angela, about these 3 co-equal branches of government. Yes, that is what has existed. But all you need is enough people to say, no, we do not accept those rules anymore. This old, antiquated document does not serve us anymore. So this is the 4th time, I referenced this on last week's episode, that we are reaching a constitutional, potentially a constitutional convention beyond a constitutional crisis. In the first test of Trump's power, we will see what happens at the Supreme Court level. From the blitz of actions that he's taken since he's been in office, the new administration has fired the head of a watchdog agency. And now this case is going to the Supreme Court. The conservative Supreme Court, bought and paid for, as we've talked about. What did you call Clarence Thomas? A hoochie? Who gets flued out? The conservative Supreme Court will weigh in on, does this administration have the right to fire the head of special counsel of a whistleblowers organization that enforces certain ethics laws? Now, once the Supreme Court says yay or nay on this power, that will inform something. I think the next course of action we will see, this administration will defy the courts. So we already have the courts that are mostly conservative leaning. Beyond that, this administration, I predict, will defy the courts. Once that happens, what does that mean? It's like a question we asked in our group chat. If the president can break multiple laws, then what is a law? If the administration can consolidate power of government to solely the executive branch, more specifically to Donald Trump and to Vice President Donald Trump and President Elon Musk, then what is the 3 co-equal branches of government? I just think we're in the outer bounds now.
Sure we are.
Of what society is. So that's why we keep saying, don't say shit to me about midterms. I don't want to hear it. Don't even talk to me about the courts.
We're not even going to get there necessarily.
This is my point.
I'm agreeing with you.
It presupposes that we will have another election. I just don't know that we're there. Either the courts at the highest level will uphold his attempt at an autocracy, or this administration will buck the courts. And then what happens? We've truly not been here before. But I will say historically and across the globe, when you see things like this happen in a democracy, it does not go back. Nobody goes back to their corner and say, okay, our bad guys, we're just kidding. We will only go further to the right. More, it's a plutocracy, an autocracy, and we'll see more of this. So I don't feel confident about any of it.
I just got to clarify one thing. The special counsel, or rather to add to Tiffany's point, the special counsel case that Donald Trump has decided to appeal, one, it is the only case that so far the Trump administration has decided to appeal to the United States Supreme Court. Now, the importance of this is that these special counsels, again, created by Congress, exist not to audit the legal activity of everybody.
This is the Inspectors General case? Inspectors General?
The only one going to the Supreme Court, yes.
But is it a special counsel or inspector general? I just want to make. I want to make sure I understand.
He's a special counsel.
It's a special counsel law, which is the office that then investigates the actions of elected officials throughout the branches. So the special counsel, we could get in. I don't want to dive too deep into that because the point is,
why? I think some people might want to know. I don't know. I thought you were talking about the IGs. I didn't hear about this special counsel case.
Yeah.
This is the only. It's a pretty big.
This is the only appeal that he's now taken to the court, and I can say
for standing, he's appealed several other cases, but they're just in the circuits. They haven't reached the
right. But this one is going to the Supreme Court.
I understand.
This one's major.
It means that it lands that the jurisdiction of this case lands directly at the United States Supreme Court. They don't have to issue a writ of certiorari to take it from the lower to the higher. It is immediately at the Supreme Court. And I would like to argue that the reason why he has made that decision, his counsel has made that decision, is because in the immunity case of the Supreme Court, in the writings of the opinions from the justices, they state that the executive branch exists of one person and one person only. That's the president of the United States. So the judicial has many members of the branch. Obviously, the legislative has 435 members of that branch of government. If you hold that the executive branch consists of one person, you might further by extension conclude that any actions that take place within the agencies, the departments, anything that exists outside of the other two branches, the judiciary and the legislative branch, that the president basically gets to make whatever decision that he wants, gets to move this country in any kind of way. The Washington Post has this byline that says that democracy dies in darkness, right?
Yeah. Democracy also dies in whiteness.
There's that. I was just going to add that democracy also is dying in the light. That they have not been secretive about their actions. They've stated them plainly. They've been out in front and stated them plainly. They lie like yesterday's gone, and it is infuriating and I think very frustrating for us, the American people, to see this exercised right in front of us and to not understand where the accountability is.
Well,
we're all looking around saying, where is the accountability? Who gets to check this guy? And your point, Tiffany, around what he's going to do is flout the courts, openly basically say, yep, with your army, you go ahead and guarantee that decision. I actually don't think it's going to get to that point because I don't believe he's going to have to with this court.
This is my point. But
can I just say really quick, because I don't want us to get too far away from this special counsel piece. I wanted to I was confused. I was combining this with the IG's case, as you all heard. The Office of Special Counsel is a separate and independent agency. It is not housed in any federal agency. The OSC has traditionally been tasked with protecting federal whistleblowers. That's a big deal. So you're starting to see members of Congress putting these whistleblower pages on their site so people can independently file whistleblower complaints with members of Congress and relevant committees, investigating reports of corruption, fraud, and government waste. You would think that Elon Musk would want to work with this agency with DOGE because they have a bunch of experience figuring this out. I just wanted to pause there and say that because I think we also have an obligation to teach
agree.
people.
Yeah,
I needed to
well,
I
learn
agree.
on the
Angela,
fly.
Angela, I just want to say,
I did say that in the beginning that it's a whistleblower organization, but I think Angela's point, really quickly, Andrew, I just want to get this point out. The fact that Angela didn't know about this has been kind of my point. So many people don't know about this. This was above the fold, A1 New York Times. People are not waking up, no diss to the New York Times, people are not waking up reading the New York Times. Most people are going to watch CNN. The things,
or
I ain't watching
their
that.
TikToks or their
or right,
Instagrams
or social
yeah.
media or whatever.
Yeah.
My point is, most people have no idea what's happening. This is a major case going to the Supreme Court that is going to determine, and this was probably a week ago that it came out. What also happened that most people don't know about? I didn't see a breaking news banner anywhere. These half-witted idiots fired the people who oversee and refurbish our nuclear warheads and develop them. They fired them.
Not
when
to
I
mention
was
the bird
saying,
flu investigators
right.
at agriculture.
And they need
but
them both
Andrew,
back.
you and I may be unique in this because when I say this to people, they're like, "What? I didn't know. A case was going to the Supreme Court. What, they fired the nuclear? Are you sure? Because I didn't see that." And I'm like, "Yes, that is the entire point. The media has capitulated. They benefit from keeping people in the dark. And so if you're not waking up reading the Times or the Post or the Journal or whatever, it is completely flying by people. And that is all very intentional. Flood
Can I just say,
the waves. Go
the
ahead.
zone. No. You're
Flood the
right.
zone.
Also,
You're
it's
absolutely right.
also
Angela,
confusing.
if I could, I don't want to lose
Go
the
ahead.
strand
Go
of
for
what
it.
you had to say before when you described the role of this special counsel. The reason why I made the argument that they are taking this to the Supreme Court is you're correct. It is independent. As are these auditors, supposedly within each of these departments. They're supposed to be independent auditors, not doing the bidding of the department, but rather making sure that it is being accountable to the law. The reason I believe that this is the right case for them is because the Supreme Court has said, right, already in this immunity case, if the department is independent, yet it doesn't exist under the arm of Congress, if it's independent and yet it doesn't exist under the judiciary, then does the president have jurisdiction over every agency, no matter who created it? And they're arguing that they do, and therefore he did have the power to fire anybody he wants, to reduce that office to practically ashes if he wants to. And this will be a key case. I am holding out. Angela and I had this offline conversation about whether or not Amy Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh might be
the handmaiden.
Well, she did have a dissenting, even though she was in the majority, she had a different reason for deciding the way she decided in the immunity case. Concurrent opinion,
yes.
And so I don't know how this is going to fall out. I honestly, my knee-jerk tells me past is prologue, that essentially what they've shown us up to this point is what they will do. And what they've shown us up to this point is that even the court under Roberts is prepared to bend the knee to Donald Trump. And I think that they're going to continue it.
I have a question for you, Angela.
I want to just say, I get really irritated. I know this is not the intention, but I just want to say this in my humanity. I get irritated when it's said that I don't read or that people aren't reading and I'm included as people. I don't feel like that's what was meant, but I just want to acknowledge that I'm trying to sift through 30 plus cases. They are coming out in real time, executive orders, breaking this stuff down. And the case that I know the most about is the IG's case, which we were supposed to talk about. I was not aware of a special counsel, and I'm hearing special counsel like at DOJ. I still wasn't aware of all the facts of this case, so I appreciate it. But I also want to go back to clarify. I can't remember who said it, but I think I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, somebody say that they didn't go through the regular courts. They're going straight through to the Supreme Court. And that's not true either. So I just want to make sure we're clear.
No, that's why they're appealing it.
Yes. Okay. I didn't. Yeah. I was like, I thought I heard somebody say they're appealing it straight to the Supreme Court. That's not what happened. The lower court, the district court, already heard it, and they're appealing again because they don't like either ruling. So it's been litigated twice just on this order. They don't like the ruling because it's clear that Donald Trump broke the law based on what the act says, which it says he can only, or the person, right now it's a man, can only be fired for an act of malfeasance. Yes, for cause. And that is not what has happened. Okay, sorry.
Well, just to clarify, my only point was it was on the cover of the Post, the Times, and the Wall Street Journal, and most people didn't even know about it because they aren't waking up reading those papers. But I have a question about another court case that I don't know about because I didn't read about it, and that is if we want to switch, because mine is not as serious, so I don't want to get us off topic, but I do actually have a legitimate question about the ASAP Rocky case because I honestly did not read anything about it. I didn't follow it. I don't know anything about it, and you guys may be better versed on that than me. Do we want to talk about that, or we want to stick on this very serious topic?
Moving very swiftly from the free world
I know,
to ASAP
I just
Rocky.
feel like it's a serious stuff going on.
I think it's right.
But there's also the thing with ASAP Rocky as well.
I don't think it's fair to say that that's not serious.
Fair enough. You're right. That's true.
I also think
that's true.
No. It's just a point of a different perspective. But I just would say first, we didn't get into it, but with the Tanya Chutkan ruling, a lot of people are like, oh, now he's gonna, every single thing that he brings to the courts, even the judges who were appointed by Biden or Obama, they're siding with him too. I think that the point that we have to remember as folks who may sue the Trump administration for cause, you suffered a direct, immediate, and in some instances, irreparable harm. That is always going to be the requirement for standing. So I know in this moment, like I'm one of them, and I'm an attorney, and I should know better. I've been like, why don't they just sue? The thing is, it can't just be a union that sues. It can't just be a group of folks representing the inspector generals. It can't just be this civil rights org that stands up to protect these various entities. An NAACP LDF suit dropped this morning, by the time y'all see this, a couple days ago, where they are suing against the DEI, the diversity, equity, inclusion, the discriminatory policies put forth by this administration. And I was like, oh my God, it's going to get thrown out. They don't have standing. They do have standing. They have a plaintiff who is in direct harm because of an HIV/AIDS program he runs and all of these things that demonstrate a direct and immediate harm. So we got to remember that as much as we know this isn't right. You know, when you wanted to go fight on behalf of your friend on the playground, like, leave my friend alone. We can say that, but you may not be able to say it in a complaint in a court of law that will have standing if you don't remember that there has to be a direct
Angela,
harm suffered. Not
before
indirect,
we go to ASAP,
direct.
Before we go to ASAP Rocky, I think this is a really important point for us and for our listeners to know, because similarly, the Massachusetts case last week where they lifted the hold on DOGE's ability to offer those buyouts. The judge in that case in Massachusetts said he can no longer keep the hold because the plaintiffs, in this case, these were the unions representing federal employees, did not have standing in the case, and therefore he had to allow the practice to continue. So for those of us who later this week heard, okay, Tanya Chutkan, the same judge who was over the criminal cases involving Donald Trump, and January 6th has now decided that he can, move forward with the action. DOGE can move forward with its access to our information and such activities. And therefore, we've lost a judge on this, a judge who was appointed by New York. That is not the outcome. And that's what Angela's trying to point out, that in order for these cases to be ripe, for a judge to hear the matter and a complete set of facts, they have to establish that you're the right person, the right entity who can bring the claim because you have been directly negatively impacted. And of course, there are conditions of the law that must be met. That being said, folks, don't let we shouldn't be let down or dissuaded or let up at all on the pedal simply because there are judicial decisions that are being made that are not necessarily going the way that we would like them to. Of the 74 lawsuits that have been currently filed, 33 of them are related to DOGE directly. Yeah. Judges have temporarily paused 18 measures already. Nevada Attorney General Trump's efficiency plan is unlawful, according to the courts there, and it lacks compassion. Obviously, here in the country. But I just want to say the overall picture as it relates to applying the law to the actions of this administration have gone the way that many of us would appreciate and value, the way of upholding and sustaining democracy. But I will tell you this, What has not been the proper check is the Congress of the United States, the Senate and the House, which have by and large allowed this man to do exactly what he wants to without the check and balance being enforced by their branch of government. They ought to shut it down. Or, as Tiffany already pointed out, once powers are taken, they are rarely ever given back. Ever.
One thing too, Tiff, and I want to get to A$AP Rocky. I just want to point this out.
It's okay. No, I'm following. Because I didn't know a lot of what Andrew just said, so I'm learning.
Yeah. As a woman of color judge, so Tanya Chutkin, who she said a lot in this case. I think this is why it's so important, to your point, Tiff, earlier, to not just read headlines. If you're reading at all, reading headlines and going beyond. When you get into the actual print of her opinion, she says some things, two things that I want to point out. One is, she says, plaintiffs raise, this is about the state's attorneys general who brought this case against DOGE, its overreach, its access to our very private information. She says, plaintiffs raise a colorable appointments clause claim with serious implications. Musk has not been nominated by the president nor confirmed by the U.S. Senate, to Andrew's point, as constitutionally required for officers who exercise, quote, significant authority pursuant to the laws of the United States. And then she says in a footnote, and this is one that I know that you all appreciate just on truth. This is what she tells DOJ. Defense counsel is reminded of their duty to make truthful representations to the court. And so I think what she's indicating here is there is a pathway, but they just picked the wrong lane. The lane has to be a plaintiff, especially for an emergency order. It has to be an immediate, suffer imminent irreparable harm that would only occur, or that can only be stopped with a temporary emergency restraining order. And if that standard's not met, that she needs more time. Case ain't been dismissed. Case ain't been thrown out, right? It's just this one part of it, this one chapter in the book where we're not quite there. And I think people need to remember that in order to hold on to hope for justice. That said, we still with this where we started, which is, do these cases even matter? Because at the end of the day, is Donald Trump going to comply with the court order? It's not clear that he will.
I will bet you all, most people don't even know about this court case. I say this because
I'm sure it's too many.
Yes, right. And my point is, they flood the zone. Like, I can't. At one point, I felt like I was a pretty informed person. I cannot keep up with it all. And I'll be honest, there are things that I read the headline and I don't read the article. Like, I literally cannot hold it all. There are things happening all over the globe that are major, and all of it is important. Angela, you were reading an opinion, and something our friend Albert always says, he's like, read the opinions, He's like, they're literally written for public consumption to make you understand. And what you just read to me does not sound like public consumption to me. I'm like, explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old, and I don't have any shame in that. Like, that's not what I understand. So explain it to me. And I think so many people out there feel that exact same way about the courts, about how government functions, about what's happening in the world. And so given all the chaos, they're like, fuck this, I check out.
I get it.
Well, let me translate. If I translate for 10 seconds, I'm gonna give you Cliff Notes. I think you got the Cliff Note on DOJ be lying, stop lying to the court. You gonna go to jail, maybe, if we can enforce a court order. And then the bigger Cliff Note is, if you not Senate confirmed Elon Musk, sit your whole ass down. That's what that means.
Okay.
And the problem is guess what?
I want that for social media, please.
He could very much so get there. This administration could get there, by the way. I have no belief whatsoever that the U.S. Senate is going to stand in the way of Elon Musk. I have no belief whatsoever that they would stop him from being confirmed. If Donald Trump knows that, and I know he knows that, as does Elon Musk, why haven't they put him up for confirmation? Why haven't they formally requested the legislature submit a bill to create DOGE?
They're going to have to sit for a hearing.
He's going to have to sit for a hearing, and also he becomes responsible to comply to all of the FOIA and disclosure laws and so on and so forth that guide this country. I'll submit my opinion here because Tiffany, I hear your point, and Angela, the question is ripe whether or not the courts matter. I will say this: so long as they continue to create appeals and to take cases to the court itself, I believe that there is still hope for the court to still have its way with its respective decisions. The question that is still outstanding for me, and so far as it's been answered, the third branch of government, which is actually the original branch of government, the legislative branch, appears completely incapable of upholding their end of the constitutional bargain. They completely are right now delegating, relegating, decreasing from their position and allowing the executive branch to run roughshod over them. And that's where I think the bigger problem is.
That's true. Now, speaking of justice and justice being served.
Yes.
Perhaps some of us, we should actually ask our audience, do y'all agree that A$AP Rocky should have been acquitted? I do. Reparations, bitch. So, A$AP Rocky.
How about innocence?
For some of y'all don't even know this, but A$AP Rocky, that's Rihanna's man, y'all. So A$AP Rocky.
That's so disrespectful.
That's so
It
good.
is?
That's so good.
I think that's an honor.
Keep the party going. Listen,
Of
how many
course,
women how many
for
women
those
are
who
told that
don't
they are the
know.
wives of?
Okay,
I'm good with this.
I'm
Keep
not
going.
trying to poo-poo A$AP Rocky. I like
Keep
A$AP
going.
Rocky. I said this was a silver lining. I said for those of you who don't know,
Okay.
who only read A1, Tiff.
The Cliff Notes
in
is.
In defense, I can't
that's
name one
Rihanna,
A$AP
man.
Rocky song, to be honest with y'all. So I
A$AP
lost my
Rocky
street
is
cred.
Rihanna's man, and he's a fashionista. They have two beautiful boys. Now, anyway, this man jumped across the backside of this court bench thing to hug her and his mom and them after he was acquitted. Now, he was facing 2 felony counts of assault with a deadly weapon. This came from a fight that he had with one of his longtime friends. When they went to the scene of the crime, they weren't able to find these shell casings. This man said he got shot, but he only had some scratches. And so the police went and were like, we can't find no casings. A$AP Rocky saying this is a stunt gun or whatever. It's not called a stunt gun. Prop gun.
Taser.
And no, not a taser. A prop
yeah.
gun. See, this is how rumors get started.
No, I was asking.
Andrew's like, he done tased his damn friend.
You said, what is it called? I'm like, what? A taser?
A prop gun. So the prop gun was allegedly used to threaten him to calm down. A$AP Rocky allegedly fired said gun to scare him. This man's knuckles got scratched. He said, my friend shot me. So they went to go try to find these 9mm shell casings. Couldn't find them. Somehow, when old boy goes back to the scene, he finds said casings.
So
Allegedly.
is the suggestion that
The defendant found the casings?
No. The boy who said he got shot. His homeboy who said A$AP Rocky shot him. Then he comes back to A$AP Rocky and he's like, yo, I got these shell casings. What you gonna do? So A$AP was like, he's trying to extort me. Old boy trying to extort me. We gonna ride this thing till the wheels fall off. I'm not taking no plea deal to make y'all look good, prosecutors. I'm gonna ride this thing because I know that the truth is with me.
Yeah.
And the jury decided in his favor. That is my most translatable version I can give you.
I love it. That was pedestrian.
Because honestly, the way it was explained to me
I want to hear.
by a friend who's an attorney is like, he was offered this plea deal. He could have done 6 months and he would have been in and out. And the way he was presenting it to me is like, it's not looking good for him. Like he's facing
everybody was
24
trying to say
it's
that.
never looking good.
But they didn't listen
for
to
a
the
black
other
man before a
side.
federal court.
They didn't listen to the other side. This mother said my knuckles got shot off. He had some scratches, and after the scratches, they couldn't find the casings. The only time the casings turn up is when old boy goes to find the casings himself. And I forgot to tell you, he had just went to the gun range shooting a 9mm. So interestingly, some 9mm casings come up on the scene.
I don't even know how that gets
That is
admitted into
peculiar.
evidence.
But
I agree, Andrew.
What I take from this is when an aggressive prosecutor comes in and is telling you, like, it ain't looking good for you. So we will take a plea of 6 months. You
They
go to
always
jail
do.
for 6 months, but then you come out, you have a record, it's all this on for him to have faith and say,
Yes.
no, I can't agree to that. That would be saying that I did something wrong. I did something that I know I didn't do. And that puts me in the mind of Khalif Browder, who said no. The youth who they put in Rikers Island was grown men who was there simply because he couldn't afford bail.
sad.
He was offered a plea deal and he said no, because that would be me saying I did something I didn't do. And I just think of all the people, disproportionately black men, who are
Yes.
in that situation because someone convinced them I can give you, you go do 5 years and you'll be out. But if you go to trial, you might get 30 years. And how devastating that is for so many people.
No, I was there. Look, I got offered a plea
Talk
deal.
about it, Andrew.
It was probably, in preparation for trial, it was probably the lowest moment in trial pre-prep when my lawyers had to come to me. And I was so angry at them. I think they would admit, I was just like, why would you bring me this? And I have a legal obligation to bring this to you for you to make a decision.
What did they offer, AG?
They wanted me to admit guilt on one count, and they would have dropped the other 20, however many counts they bought against me. And I was so insulted. I was offended. I was hurt. I was all these things, there's no mother than way. Yeah. I'm accepting any deal. You can tell them when you go back, never, ever, ever to approach me again with any bargain. Unless it is, we're dropping all charges.
That's right.
And we apologize for having turned your life upside goddamn down to pursue a case that was no case at all. So, but for most people, when you look at the percentage of federal cases, 90% of them, the defendant is found guilty or they have already reached a bargain, so it never goes to trial. You're looking at 90%. I mean, you got the odds of 10%, 10 out of a dollar. You of course, the money will cause you to say, okay, we can end this and the bill can stop. The ability to have some predictability around what's going to happen if I say, okay, and I only get 3 months, or maybe I only get a year of probation or whatever, in a felony, whatever. All of those decisions I get while some people say, yeah, I'll take it without even being guilty. They take it because you're like, I'll take the thing I know versus the risk of what I don't know. Yeah. And the consequences that can come that could keep me away from my wife and my kids and my family for years, right? So you might cop to that. But I appreciate this brother for fighting this thing all the way through, knowing that right is right is right. But the truth is that there are a lot of people who were right and did not break the law who are behind bars today because the deal was more predictable and acceptable than the fighting of it and the not knowing, because we don't get a fair shake in this system. And I know that for a fact. And I know ASAP Rocky knows it for a fact. And I'm just glad that in this case, the justice prevailed, but it never really is justice. Why? Because they never say you're innocent. The judgment that they get to reach is either you're guilty or not guilty. You're acquitted, or you're found guilty. And so his life is still impacted, regardless of his resources or how bad his girl is or whatever. His life has still been turned upside down, and it's going to take him some time to recuperate and recover himself from what he's just gone through.
Do you feel like, AG, based on everything you've experienced, that you have recovered?
No, not at all.
Yeah. I think that is so important for people to know, one, how much you had to spend to ensure.
Still spending.
Yeah, the emotional, psychological, and the financial toll to argue your innocence. That never, to your point you said earlier on our pre-pro call, nobody ever declares you innocent. You're just acquitted. Yeah. And you don't get reparations or restorative justice for the money you spent knowing you're not guilty. And ASAP Rocky, through all that, could turn to the jurors and say, thank you for saving my life. It's like somebody believed the story that is the truth and not the story that is painted by the prosecution. And in my
case, what I appreciated even more is that after the case was done, these jurors were released from their responsibility. And what did they do? They started meeting after my case, went down to the editorial board of the local paper, and they said, we cannot believe that this case was ever bought.
Wow.
We cannot believe this case made it through a grand jury. That's what they went down and said. They organized themselves.
Wow.
After they were released from their responsibility, a jury where the majority of people on it didn't even vote for me for governor. Because those things were disclosed, right? But they went down and they advocated because they saw a miscarriage of justice and a miscarriage of the law. All I got to say is that the effects of it are long-term. God knows I pray to get past and over, but it shows up every single day in a multitude of ways. And I just try to hold it together long enough not for it to be a drag on my children and my family.
Yeah.
I want ASAP Rocky and Andrew to start an organization.
Yeah,
honestly,
we need to take
seriously,
down grand juries.
I'm not being funny. I'm not being funny.
Believe me, I know you are 100% serious. I think anybody listening knows this organization going to exist in a year from now. Yeah, I honestly, I think that would be a good idea. And Andrew, let me just say, like, when you and I are together, when the three of us are together, when I've seen you with your family, you do a really good job of, you, of course, you're free, whatever you're feeling inside to share with us. We love you, and we've talked about it, but you don't let it weigh you down. Like, you're still out here doing what you can as best you can. And I just want to say, this entire show, I want you to know this. I've looked at you and thought you were showing cleavage, and I realize now.
Oh my God! What
that
is happening
it is a brown t-shirt.
Tiff is clowning today. First is Lady Gaga. That ain't
Angela,
even Andrew's skin color.
T-shirt?
Yes, that's not even his skin color.
Oh my gosh, I
on
love
this
it, Fran.
screen,
Now our podcast is officially disinformation. Congratulations, Tiff. Jesus
On this
Christ.
screen, it looked all the same. My screen is discolored.
Somebody help
hilarious.
Tiff's screen, because that does not look like Andrew. That looks like Andrew's face that time that makeup artist tried to make you look casket ready,
don't
Andrew.
remind me.
On the
Okay,
playback,
moving on.
I'll see it. We're not in person. On the screen, it definitely.
When you
next
see
topic,
it back, you're going to be like,
what they said on the
damn.
next topic? What they said?
Okay, sorry. We got a viewer question. I don't know what
Yes.
it is, but we got a viewer question.
I know, we were supposed to get to 3 of them by now.
Hi, my name is Shar. I'm from the Philadelphia area, and the first thing I'd like to say is, what do you think about those Super Bowl champs, the Philadelphia Eagles? But in terms of your podcast, I want to say I enjoy your podcast. I don't know where I was at, but I first learned about your podcast last year when I heard Tiffany and Angela on a interview on the Young Turks. I do listen to the Young Turks, as I like to have a variety of perspectives. And to that point, I would love to hear what you all think about a narrative that the Young Turks has been pushing, of saying, why not work with MAGA on the things that we align to help manage the chaos that's going on. It certainly feels like I think it's apparent that the guardrails that we think we have in the government are not really holding. So I can understand where that might seem like a possible solution.
Andrew, why are you breathing like that in the mic? Back up!
No.
Oh my God! Jesus!
What are you doing?
He's congested.
I want a sandwich.
Andrew, back
A
up.
great big sandwich.
Andrew, that is not obese friendly. In this podcast, we are inclusive. What the fuck is going on?
You're the worst human ever. Go ahead.
You just started breathing heavy saying you wanted a sandwich. What else does that mean?
I mean, I was really deflecting from your rudeness.
Anyway,
but,
it's going to get cut. Yours is staying in, though. Okay,
No,
anyway, here we go. Here's what I want to say. You guys, I have something controversial. Tiff has already inadvertently dragged me once in this show, so this will be the official drag.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Let me just say this, because
Anyway,
she said
no, it's going to take too long.
All the hit
I'll be
dogs
10
holler.
seconds. Let me
Shut
just
up,
say
Andrew.
this, because then
She
the
literally
comments will be all
hollered.
about this. Number one, Angela reads all. If you know and watch the show, Angela reads all the time. She's been doing the live
Everything.
YouTubes. There's a chance to promote the live YouTubes on executive orders. She at 3 a.m. is dropping links to something she
Hello.
up reading. I mean, I was not trying to say Angela don't read.
She don't
I
like
think
my
Know it all.
sources.
most
Miss, I'm the
people,
A
most
student in the
people
class.
do not
No, I
read.
wasn't.
And I don't.
was an
If
easy
Angela
3-4.
feels that way, I don't want the viewers out there who don't read to feel that way. It is not a moral judgment. I'm not reading everything right now. My point is, most
Tiff
people
the
are not
lover is
consuming this.
elitist.
Oh yes, Andrew. They do both of them, but Andrew mostly has said that my thoughts are elitist before. I will
Tiff the
take
lover
it.
is elitist.
I will take
Okay.
it. But I just
She
want to be
says
clear.
she's
I wasn't
fine.
trying to say Angela doesn't read. Most people don't read, but Angela, obviously,
felt
you could go through all the
attacked.
executive orders. I can't. Like, I haven't been keeping up
Well,
with them.
clearly I didn't go with one of them. Or no, that was a court case. Okay,
That
here's the
wasn't an
point.
executive order.
You are
You're
redeemed,
right.
friend.
I'm not that redeemed, but it's okay. I don't need to be redeemed. I do need to talk about how we're doging ball. See what I did there? Doge ball? No. Okay.
I got it.
Is
I like it.
thanks, sports expert. So for Doge ball, I think that if we're not careful, and if they're smart, if they go forward, there was a proposal presented to Elon Musk by a man named James Fishback. I don't know who this man is, but I stayed on Twitter, unlike some of the folks who couldn't wait to haul ass. He presented a proposal to Elon Musk for a tax credit of $5,000 per household from all of the alleged savings that they were seeing from DOGE's efforts. All of the cuts they're making to programs, the jobs they're cutting, all of that this money would be redistributed to the American people vis-a-vis a tax credit. Some people are calling this stimmy checks. Some people recognize that it's a tax credit. And I think the most important thing here is that this would only go to people who file taxes in tax year 2025, and that they have to be net payers. And I think that's important because that means you have to have some employment that demonstrates that you've paid into the system in order to get this thing back. Now, James Fishback runs a right-leaning investment firm called Azoria. He is not a government employee, but for that matter, Elon Musk is a government employee. I think he's getting paid, but he is not appointed, given the scope of work, as we've discussed earlier in this podcast. And
is Elon a government employee?
I think he gets paid. Don't he get a check? Special government employee is the designation.
He's collecting a paycheck. Our tax dollars are paying the world's richest man.
I think, from what I understand, the special government employee designation means he's an employee. I don't know if he's drawing down a salary, if he's donating it back to the government. That also can happen. But the designation given to him by Donald Trump, so he didn't have to file all the disclosures, clear all conflicts, was special government employee. Although special government employee, also per one of my latest solo pods, doesn't mean that you don't have any ethics responsibility. He's just ignoring them. But I digress. Back to this $5,000 payment. Here's what let me tell you all my deepest fears. My deepest fears is that people won't read the 4-page memo and they will only read the headline from Fortune or Forbes that says Elon Musk mulls giving Americans a $5,000 check based on DOGE savings.
Who is it coming from?
This is from Fortune.
No, the check. Whose bank account?
This is coming from when you file your taxes with the IRS.
So the government.
Yes.
Elon Musk, a non-full-time employee of the government, not confirmed, in a department that doesn't exist, is going to make a decision about whether or not to rebate us $5,000 from our own money?
Well, to be clear,
or is he going into his billionaire, wealthiest man in the world status and writing the check from himself?
He's not writing the check. So just so we're clear, he did say in response to James Fishback, from wherever this place is, this right-leaning investment firm that launched an anti-woke ETF last year as well. James Fishback, he told James Fishback, I will have to run it by the president. But the headline is killing me, Tiff, because we read headlines sometimes too. Elon Musk mulls.
Definitely don't.
That's
giving
what I'm asking.
Americans. No, I know why. I was getting back into what you're saying, but I'm trying to give credit, the little bit of credit I can give him, a Doge crypto coin credit to Elon Musk for saying he would at least have to ask the president. Here's my point, though. Donald Trump is the same man that held up stimulus funds to ensure that his name was on the check going out to American people. Donald Trump is smart with marketing in a lot of ways. He reaches people just by repurposing and repackaging things. He's still getting credit for stimulus checks when Joe Biden also did stimulus checks. Joe Biden doesn't get that credit. And
and when the first stimulus check that had his name on it came from Democrats who were in control of the Congress. We're the appropriators, remember? I know
clear.
You know this.
We know this.
You know this, but we had to talk about this on doorsteps.
My biggest fear is that people see a $5,000 tax credit
headline.
And they forget everything else that has happened. The dismantling of DEI programs that would ensure a grant for your kid doing research that could save lives. The money that is taken away from HIV/AIDS related care on the continent. The fact that they are making fun of the men in Mozambique who were going to be a part of a grant where they would be circumcised to prevent the widespread of HIV/AIDS on the continent. All of the things that are taking place where they're seeing it as waste, fraud, and abuse without really asking the people who are in charge of these programs, what are they for? If you get a $5,000 credit, but you suffer a $50,000 or $100,000 loss, friends, was it worth it? So I don't want to look
Yeah.
like a hater by any means necessary. Lolo and I were talking about this earlier too. But I got to tell y'all the truth. I have an obligation to tell you all of the ways in which we are being hit on an education level, on a health human services level, on a HUD level eventually, on a Treasury level, on an IRS level, all the places where your data has been compromised. Do you know if there was a court case to talk about how your private information was accessed and you can prove direct harm to the point of what we were talking about earlier, you would get paid out. Your settlement would be larger than $5,000 damn dollars. So I want to be clear about the wolf in sheep's clothing. I want to be clear about the many ways in which we're being bamboozled. I cannot even imagine what it's like for somebody who's never seen a $5,000 check and what this might mean to them. But I want you to know your life is so much more valuable than this check, than this tax credit, however it makes its way to you. Everything that is being lost right now across the board for veterans, for small children, for our elders, for the people who are sick in our country, for the people who are differently abled in our country, I don't know that it's worth it.
Let me tell you, I know the answer. It ain't worth it because this is the big deal. This is the big deal because these are distractions, including this $5,000. And I'd love to have $5,000 more dollars in my pocket so I can pay more on my legal debt that's sitting out there, right? But the point is, they have proposed, Donald Trump and the Republicans, Johnson, the Speaker of the House, they're about to bring forward a package that is going to, Mike Johnson, thank you, that is going to bring forward that is about to bring forward a budget proposal that includes $4 trillion in tax breaks to the wealthiest 1%, to the wealthiest Americans and wealthiest corporations in this country. But guess what, y'all? They have not figured out a way to pay for it. And they have already given us a clue around how it is that they're going to pay for Trump's tax breaks. Do you want to know where it is coming from, folks? Healthcare. So you think about the last time you had a medical emergency where you had a copay and you got to walk away with just having paid $5,000 all in when you consider medications, the cost of the care, the long-term consequences, which may cause you to have to lose your job because you have to tend to medical situations, and therefore your retirement gets bounced because you have to dip into that money early in order to make a way for yourselves and for your family. So when you think about $5,000, we don't have to imagine that we're going to get worse on the back end. They're telling us right now, $5,000 is a distraction so that they can get to the real goods. And the real goods is they're going to cut Medicaid in this country, if not in half, in whole, certainly in significant enough form that many of us will not even have access to health care anymore. And those costs are going to be borne exclusively by you.
Well, even to the point, if we can back up a bit, just on DOGE itself, like they've just been lying to the American people, and the media has done such a shitty job of pointing out all the minutia in the ways that they've lied. How they have arrived that they've saved the American people $55 billion is unclear. Literally unclear to print reporters who have poured through these numbers, unclear. They have found glaring errors. For example, he has said that one contract he cut was $8 billion. The contract was actually $8 million. That is a huge discrepancy. And when you're presenting this lie, that you're canceling that. The most recent version and it was an ICE contract that was $8 million that they cut. I would like to know more questions about what exactly this means. Angela, you talked about them cutting off AIDS and HIV care. According to the reporting from Bloomberg, that is going to come at the cost of 250 babies dying every day, daily. Now, for all the people who are self-proclaimed pro-life, this administration that you voted for is literally costing lives. Where do you stand on that? So I think Angela made a really good point pointing out that this $5,000 tax credit is not worth it. Andrew, you made a good point. Like, no, it's not a credit. You paying for it somewhere. I want people to know it's blood money. It is literally the $5,000 you're getting is literally costing people their lives and their livelihoods.
But it could also be their blood.
Right.
When you talk about extracting health care from somebody, when you're talking about cutting off the levers of support, because I know that there are a lot of people, including many in our community, who are not that turned on by U.S. international investments. You don't have to go there. We can set international investments to the side. Why? Because USAID is less than 1% of the budget. You can't pay for $4 trillion with 1%, less than 1% of the United States budget. You just can't do it. The math won't math. So what do you have to do? You have to go after big, huge, wholesale pieces of the budget. And if you've already taken defense off the plate, and you've already done this little cutting around some of the staff, which again is not constituting a whole bunch of money at the end of the day because they missed their goal of 10%, right? Yeah. And then you consider the cost, when you talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, when you consider the cost of all of the private contractors that they are going to have to go out and hire for expertise. Why? Because they fired the people inside the government who were government employees who did this work on a salary. They're going to escalate the cost of this government even more. So what they really should have done is been very honest and basically said, we do not believe that the federal government ought to have employees. We believe that the entire federal budget ought to be farmed out in contracts to the private sector.
To our friends.
That's really the goal.
Yeah.
To our friends. And I want to say on this point about you don't have to go to USAID, Andrew, I love that point. I am feeling the pinch of this. I've been having conversations with people, like even in my professional development program, where they were like, I haven't felt the immediate harm from this yet. And it just hit our family this week. So my mom, after we taped this show today, we're taking my mom to get her port installed for chemo. She starts chemo on Monday. And the place where we're entrusting my mom's care with Fred Hutchinson just announced that they are ending all their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. When my mom went in there, you guys, to get the contrast dye put in last week to do a CT scan to see how everything was looking in her liver, there was another nurse talking to a patient saying that they were starting to have to cut back on things because some of their federal funding for cancer research is being impacted. And that's how they ended up making this decision around what they would do with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, everything in me, you all know, is screaming to raise hell about what this might mean for the very few Black oncologists that work at Fred Hutch, what this might mean for the nursing staff, for the folks who do acupuncture and rehabilitation, what this might mean for our opportunities for the Black women who are overwhelmingly and disproportionately harmed by triple negative breast cancer. What does that mean for our care plans? But I got to be careful about how I move because I can't have my mom being the sacrificial lamb for this shit. So we are put in these conundrums with intention. They out-strategized us in this way because they're willing to cause us harm in ways that we would never do to them. Of course. Never do to them.
I say,
wouldn't. And I'm not trying to see nobody suffer. I don't want to see nobody's loved ones suffering.
But they're cruel.
It ain't right.
They are cruel and they don't mind.
Cruelty is the point. Shout out to Adam
right.
Stewart.
They're cruel.
Right. I just want to say really quickly, much love to Mama Rye. We are sending you all the love as you go through chemo. I love the picture Angela posted of you, Mama Rye, on Valentine's Day with your arm around both your parents like this. She looks so joyful and happy.
Love it.
I think of Mama. Angela knows I think of her mom often. I know the days of her appointments. I try not to bug you too much on those days to check in because I know that's frustrating too. You know, when people checking in, what's the news, what's the latest?
Yeah. It's hard because everybody mothers, cares.
Yes.
You just are like,
God's got Mama Rye.
I will tell y'all, spot for mothers.
Tiff really does, and I think that is a gift from God. So thank God for you both. I will tell you. The thing that's the most helpful right now, I think I'm getting on my mom's own nerves asking her how she's feeling, but I think even when people say, how is your mom doing? It does feel like pressure. It does feel like
to give a good report
because I can't. Number one, she is doing great, but also you know how you get in these weird places where you're like, if I keep saying she's doing good, does that end up sending her to a different place? Like, I don't believe in jinxing. I believe in the power of the tongue and all that. But there is something in me, if I'm honest, that feels like if I keep saying that, is it going to send it to the wrong place or in the wrong direction? Or, I guess my only ask of you all, because there's so many of you all have sent love, have shared your mother's own stories, and I do appreciate that. If you can just say, I'm praying for Mama Rye.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Mama Rye. I promise you, as opinionated as I am, if I got something to say, I will. But right now, I just want to center what she needs from me. I don't want to have to meet your need to be informed about her. I just want you to pray for her. If I proactively reach out and share, I will. But it does feel like pressure to answer everybody. And I want to be mindful of that. But I think I've learned in this moment, it's better not to ask somebody how the person is doing. It's better to just say, I'm thinking of her. I love her. Hug her for me. Any love that I can give her, I'll take that. But the report backs, my daddy be on my head.
Your larger point is still so important, Angela, which is that the ripples of all of this, you may not have felt it yet.
Yeah, I didn't mean to derail it,
No, I think that was a good derail. And I think, honestly, what you said is so helpful to so many other people who are going through, and you don't know what to say, you don't know how to deal. And Angela, you did a beautiful job when she put in our group chat, because all of us were asking in the chat, but also side chatting. And the way that you say it was with such grace. And you were like, girls, I promise. You'll give an update, and then you'll say, girls, I promise. Y'all will be the first to know when I have more to share. And the subtext of that is, I thank you for covering me with your love and interest, but I will contact you. I will call you, So so for all the people who are in situations like that, you're like, well, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to deal with it. That is great advice. I'm praying for you. I'm praying for your mother and your family. And you leave it at that and leave it up to the person to share what they want.
And I just wanted to appreciate,
if you got a random health tip, y'all, me and Mama Rai, we love all the natural things. So if you like this tea,
audience, drop your tips.
This is good for chemo nausea. This is whatever it is. Like, we love those things. And she likes to try all the things. Drop them in the comments,
please. We would I would even appreciate that. So please, if you have health tips, especially if you've gone through chemo or you know someone who did something that helped you with nausea, eating, anything, hair loss, whatever it is, drop it in the comments. Because I think Angela and Mama Rai would appreciate that.
Thanks.
Sorry, Andrew, I didn't mean to cut you off. And I know we're coming up on time, and we have another viewer question.
There's nothing to be sorry about at all. I appreciated your larger point, including your personal update, which I think invited you into it, which is that for those of us, many of us out there who are saying this don't impact me yet, but $5,000 will.
It's coming.
Just wait. Keep living.
Coming.
Keep living. That's the point. Keep living. And you'll see.
I would love for us to revisit this $5,000 point too, because my whole point, and I forgot because we had a question about it. To Tiff's point, we have more questions, but we had a question about, is there a place where we can work together with the MAGA folks? And I think that what I was bringing this up to say is, I see this as an opening because our people are suffering so much for them. And this is a place where I don't want to lean in, but I see a place where they could encroach on more of our folks who are in harm's way, who are feeling vulnerable, who have been ignored, who have been abused by the system, no matter who's in charge, right? That's something that we've all heard. Andrew, we heard it knocking doors for you. That it doesn't matter who's in charge. This always happens, or I'm just ignored, or I don't matter, or my vote doesn't matter. For those people that are the most vulnerable among us, I'm worried about the encroaching there. It's hard.
I'm worried about what they will take from them. From all of us.
I understand.
I'm worried about what they take, right? You always have to watch. My mother, there's always one hand giving, but what is the other hand doing?
Taking away.
It's in your pocket. It's in your medical. It's in your data. It's in every. So yes,
I like
one hand
that.
giving.
There's always one hand giving, but
there's
what's the other
always
hand
one
doing?
taken.
Black women got the best.
One.
I mean, we are oracles. We got the
Y'all
best
got it.
sayings and
But
phrases.
You have the best
we need
of it
to have her on
because
here
your
to
life
tell
has
us.
shown it to us.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty of these sayings being passed on from generation to generation, is that we know that ain't nothing new. Ain't nothing under the sun new. They are repackaging the same old tactics that they had before. There was a gimmick when they were taking us out of Africa. There were gimmicks with tribes. Turn on your other tribe.
Yeah.
We'll take them, leave y'all alone until we need more of you.
Yeah.
And we come for you.
And even then, we said it wasn't going to be that bad. Well, it's not going to be that, because we had slavery. There were institutions of slavery on the continent. They did not look like the transatlantic slave trade. So everybody was probably thinking, I wasn't there, but they
It was
probably
more
like, "It ain't gonna be that bad."
servitude. It wasn't
That's
necessarily
right.
slavery. It was servitude, but not slavery. All right. Well, guys, in full transparency, we have so much to say on so many topics. So we are in a bit of a rush to get out of the show because we have a very exciting interview that's going to drop on Monday. So be sure to check that out. It will be with Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley.
Friday.
Friday.
Friday? Is it
Friday?
Friday?
Yeah, Andrew's Monday.
Friday.
Andrew's Monday.
Andrew has some. That's right. So before I kick it to you, Andrew, I just want to say I know I said at the beginning of the show that there was a great question that came in on local elections. We didn't forget about you. We're going to answer your question next week. So be sure to catch Native Land Pod next Thursday, where I will answer your question on local elections, and we'll get to all your other questions. And Andrew, so you're doing a podcast on Monday.
So there was another question. There's another question that came in about what the resistance looks like. What does the apparatus of the opposition party look like, right? What do we look like, challenges the administration? And I want to dig into that with y'all. So I want to invite you on Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be doing a solo pod for just a few minutes to try to illuminate what the squad looks like out there around the world that is certainly here in the United States that we can plug into as part of the resistance to this administration, and what the squad looks like for promoting the things that we deserve, we desire, meeting our needs and not the needs of the top 1% in Elon Musk and them. So join us Monday.
We're going to roll that question.
Hi, Native Land Pod. My name is Shawniqua. I'm a social worker in South Carolina. I have a question and some just concerns, I guess. So, since President Trump has come into office, I feel like things are moving so fast. The world is just kind of crumbling, and he's wreaking havoc on like all of these systems and institutions and people. But at the same time, I work full-time in a hospital. On weekends, I teach college courses. I have 3 school-aged kids, a husband. My life is already so busy and full. I feel like I cannot focus on what's happening or figure out how to actually do anything about what's happening. But I'm thinking like there are some activists, there are some people who this is what they do. And I would like y'all to highlight some so we can know how to support them financially, because I do recognize it's a sacrifice that they are making to actually put themselves on the line for our community. So who are these people? Can you point us in the right direction so we can, donate, support, so they can still live their lives and feed their kids and whatever they need to do, but they can also focus on their job to benefit our community. Thank you.
And you all will get all of Andrew's answers on that question. I know many of us are thinking about that on Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, where Andrew starts his first solo pod journey. So y'all make sure you tune in live on Native Land Pod's YouTube page. And with that, I have to do one more shameless plug. Today I am wearing something that is very black. It is a black hood. It is a black hooded cape from the Gap's Harlem Fashion Row collection. Shout out to all the entities that are maintaining their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, and it is Black History Month. So I'm feeling very black, and also I'm wearing black all year because these guys told me we were doing that and then left me hanging. So
we did not. No, we did.
So we thank you all so much for tuning in. You know this is our home, but it is also yours. We want to make sure we hear from you. Please keep sending in your questions. I know we didn't answer enough today. We're going to do better. There are 621 days until the midterms. If we have midterms, if we keep fighting, we just might. We love y'all. God bless you and your families. I'm Angela Rye. That's Andrew Gillum. This is Tiffany Cross. Lover Tiffany Cross.
Lover.
Welcome home, y'all.
Welcome home, lovers.
Thank you for joining the natives. Intentional with the info on all of the latest. Rod, Gillum, and Cross connected to the statements that you leave on our socials. Thank you sincerely for the patience. Reason for your choice is clear. We're so grateful. Took the oath to execute roles. Yeah, faithful. Preserve, defend, and protect the truth, even if painful. Welcome home to all of the natives. We thank you.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.